Okay, so here we are. Isn't it beautiful out? June, yeah. It's like the 17th day since I left my church, and so the more I get out of linear time, like I know it's June. Okay, so let's just say it's June 3rd, maybe? Let me look. All right, I can look. Oh, it's Friday, June 4th. Well, there you go. All right, so just a few things. First of all, that boat is really rocking, and I don't know how people live in. All right, I started dry fasting again. Day before yesterday, I did a 12-hour one, and I broke it at 12 because I didn't feel well. I had a headache. Okay, I had a bad headache. So then I started again yesterday at 4 in the afternoon, and still dry fasting. So we'll see how that goes. I make it a marker of when to quit, as you know, when I feel unstable, like when I feel like woozy, or if I'm but a migraines, yeah, definitely stop. But I do practice with the migraine for a little while, meaning practice with disassociating my body from extreme pain. And it was working. I mean, like, it's like, but I couldn't necessarily go back to sleep, and so I just broke it. That was yesterday morning. No. I think the day before. Anyway, I did get a little delirious. So I only did 12 hours, and then, anyway, I forgot what I was talking about. As you watch my videos, it has nothing to do with the dry fast. So, I have symptoms like the first time. People are like, well, don't you get hungry? You get silly and you get zenful. I mean, like hunger pains. What I used to think was hunger pains is actually not. It's parasites. It's old programs. It's and it's also a cleansing and healing reaction. You know, you got your spleen or your liver or your gallbladder. Some will just be like just making some noise. You know, either by pain or by, you know, I don't know, gurgling, or people are like, and I used to be this way in my 20s and 30s, be like, well, I'm crabby, or I don't feel well, or whatever, because I haven't eaten. But really, if I'd have just continued with the not eating or drinking, I would have cleared that out, because it really was the parasite. And so blood sugar issues, all that stuff clears up, because dry fasting is a reset for your body. Your body, your innate, knows exactly what to do. And so another thing with dry fasting is it brings up a lot of emotional stuff to clear. Most everyone should be able to do 12 hours, right? But I hadn't been, and I'd been kind of round the clock. Like I would wake up like every 3 or 4 hours, and I would like maybe have something to drink or whatever, sometimes something to eat. And that was kind of my cycle. I had a whole different sort of a routine. And so you will have pain in different organs and different parts of your body. And, you know, at first, I mean, my shoulder pain, well, I did turpentine, a few drops the other day. And every time I do it, my shoulders just ache, right? Because that's where a bunch of parasites live. And then they die off. And now it's like, yeehaw, right? It's, you definitely encouraged to take time out to let your body stop having to process energy of food, or like even one food item. Imagine it like in the field, okay, the essence of the plant, whatever the rain there is, whatever the dirt, every person that touches it, every energy that food passes through before it gets to you, you're processing that. You're processing different nutrients, different non-nutrients, different chemicals, different toxins all the time. And so your body's working on that all the time. And when you can stop all that, your body can work on resetting you and getting things back to where they need to be, and getting rid of excess inflammation and just all kinds of yucky stuff. And then the next level is, you know, eating tumors, eating old stuff, turning fat cells into excess fat cells into water. So yeah, anyway, so there's that. I've been having violent memories. of peaceful places. Like, I did a meditation a little while ago, and it was like, I felt like I was in one location and just jolted to this, and I saw this scenery. And I was like, whoa. So I just looked at it a few minutes in my mind's eye, and I'm like, I know it. I've seen it many times. I can't place it exactly 100% if it's in the Rocky Mountain Park outside of Boulder, Colorado, I think is one thing. But I also then flashed on Glacier National Park in Montana, and just the curves, the roads, flashed on places I've been. Like without kind of gently rolling and going there, just almost like you could almost feel a physical jolt. I'm like, what the heck? I'm like, why am I being shown this? And then last night I had a vision or memory when I was under 10, I believe. I had an aunt that I just thought was the greatest thing ever. And she had a boyfriend, and I thought he was just really, really cool. I didn't know their private life or their drinking or what. I didn't know anything about what their deal was. Now, my aunt had 2 kids by her husband that she divorced from. And I was thinking last night, I was remembering, because I remembered her boyfriend's car, and it was a Chevy Nova, because I thought it was so cool, because I pointed to the dash Nova, and my mom was an Avon lady, right? And Nova was Avon backwards. And so I thought that was cool. So I remember sitting in the back seat in the center, and in the front, my aunt was here, and then the guy was driving. And I just, like I said, I really thought they was cool. And so last night I was like, well, I know I was in the middle of the back seat, so who else was in the back seat? And Spirit was like, now is the time to go ahead and make assumptions, right? So to go ahead and assume who is in the back seat. Logic, right? Absolute logic. Of course, it was her two other kids. I wasn't her kid, but her 2 kids. And I'm saying other kids because the guy in the front, she had a child by, and they didn't end up together. So my mind, anyway, so when we got to the destination, which was another family member, and we were like staying the weekend or whatever, it was like Saturday morning or whatever. And my other aunt was like, hey, go get your aunt, blah, 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 and tell her it's time for breakfast. And her boyfriend were sleeping in the basement bedroom. So I went down the stairs just either a little bit, or I don't know how the door exactly opened, but they were having sex. And so I think I'd hollered down and they didn't hear me. And then I just sat on the steps and watched them. Right? This is the aunt that's goody two-shoe now. Long stories about that. But anyway, I flashed on that memory, and I'm not sure why. I was intrigued by them being sexual, but I didn't know what to necessarily do. I think I might have left and then came back in a little bit and made more noise at the door when I came in. I'm not really sure, but I flashed on that one. That one I flash on every few years or so. I'm kind of like I'm just taking there. It was more like a gentle look at it, but I keep seeing this energy. And I think too, last night I was thinking there's, how movies and shows and things bring things up. The Orange is the New Black. There's one of the Spanish cooks, and I was thinking, well, I really like her, and I like her energy, and I like her attitude, and what's that about? Where's that come from? And then I flashed on my aunt, and when I was really young, and she was, a rebel, and she was all, but I also remember there's a lot of trauma around her, and her previous husband had, there was sexual abuse. There was sexual abuse in my aunt, my mother's, like their brothers, and then their kids had it. It's just rampant. I don't remember the point of that. I need some air. I tried. Oh, don't copyright me. Man. Anyway, I only opened the windows for a second. I don't want people to, hear me yammering. Okay, so, or you apparently, because I completely lost my train of thought. Anyway, so I might be bringing up layers and layers of stuff from different times as I release. So I had something happen a couple of days ago where authority challenged me, and Spirit's been walking me through some stuff and saying that, okay, so this is the root wound of fear when someone comes to your bedroom door, of fear when you hear a noise outside, when you hear a thump upstairs in an apartment, when you hear something that happens that you can't control. And the authority confrontation didn't so much trigger this part, but later, okay? So because it happened once, it can happen again. So you're always like, oh my gosh, they're going to do it again. Oh, someone's going to attack me. It's that post-traumatic stress that gets triggered when you roll through the window. No, when you think you're going to be in trouble. Okay, I think I'm going to be in trouble. I think I'm going to be in trouble. I think I'm going to be in trouble. Someone's going to get mad. Someone's going to get upset. And that comes from post-traumatic stress that, well, I'm not going to say ow anymore. Ow. Hour. My mother put on me, okay, by constantly using me as a sounding board, constantly using me for therapy, right? She's 20 years older than me. She had me at 20, so she's very young. You think of 20 now, 20 is young. But that, it doesn't matter. I'm not saying that you should blame your mother for everything that happens, okay? But you look back and you go, okay, here's the root of this. Here's why. And if you're still reacting to something that is taught to you in childhood, you kind of examine where the roots of it are and to untangle it, okay? Now, if say that's 20s and your mom's now in her 40s, 50s, 60s, or fucking 70, like my mom is, excuse my language, if you visit them and they're doing the same thing, so in your adult life, if they're doing that same thing to you, that's where I recommend that people cut their mothers out of their lives, because otherwise they're continually continually programmed, and you can't even sit back and deal with the post-traumatic stress and the programs that happened to you as a child. So in order to address that stress that I've noticed for the last 40 years, my whole adult life, I'd lock my bedroom door. I locked the shower door. I didn't want anyone coming into the bathroom. I would get extremely panicked and scared if someone come into a room that I wasn't aware they were coming in first, or they didn't knock a bunch. Even the knock would startle me. So it's better to just, text me and let me know you're coming, sort of deal. And I've worked through a lot of that, but that comes from my mother constantly needing me, okay? So she'd throw violent fits. She'd break things, and I'd clean everything up, okay? So I would always be on call for my mother's meltdown or her suicidal. She'd always say, your father and you and your dad would be better off if I was dead, right? So every day making my mom okay. So then as an adult, teenager, and even to now at 50 years old, I have post-traumatic stress because of my mother's depression and I always had to fix her, and I always had to help her. And so this authority confrontation gets to this root, okay? And so Spirit's showing me all this stuff today of like, okay, but some mothers are different. So if your mother did this to you and now she's not doing it and she's worked on herself, that's beautiful. But if not, you need to remove her from your life. And so I did. And I've really only officially 100% last about a year ago, because she would just kind of pop in randomly. But she's not been on my team my whole adult life. She's not been in my corner. She's a Jehovah's Witness, and the church has always come first, and they have power of attorney over her body. And they always she chooses them no matter what creepy messed up thing they do or the elders do. It's really disgusting. And I didn't get shunned because I was never baptized. I was part of the Jehovah's Witness church just to be with my grandma. And I'll talk about that in another video. But so I just want to clarify here that I'm not saying that if your mother does something you as a child, to never have her in your life. If she's grown up and she's like, oh my gosh, and addresses it with you. I did the best I could then. I'm working on it. I didn't know. And you're both working on it, okay, because you've brought down trauma from the ancestral line and you're both healing it. But if she's continually still doing it and has no way to change and no look at it, like my mother, you have to cut them out. It's like drinking poison every day. You can't start to detox until you stop drinking the poison. And so Spirit's been showing me that. And so this challenge of this authority system brought that in. And so then the next day, I don't know if it was a couple days ago and then it'd be today, but then after that, then start feeling like you're constantly in trouble. Someone's going to get you. There's going to be something bad. And when you sit back and you go, well, is it happening now? Is it real? Do they really have any power over you? And so, no, right? And so that's what I brought to relationships, where I was like, I'd get with someone and it would be really nice and good. And I'm like, what? Like, yeah, you know, the other shoe's going to drop. It's going to drop. It's going to drop. And you're waiting for it to drop. And so I'd kind of hold myself out waiting for that bad thing to happen. Right. And so the trick is to be in the forever now and never factor in anything of the past. Just be right here now and go, okay, what do I feel now? What do I see now? And I've been practicing that and working on that for decades, and more so, more and more and more and more, and every day now. And so I let this incident, there's other things around the incident, the other lessons, like I might talk about later, of assuming. So I made an assumption and I assumed wrong. And if I'd have just done nothing and minded my own business, I wouldn't have got tangled into what the energy I got tangled into. So that's one thing, but it's the obsession the next day and then years later of thinking that exact thing may happen. And if it does happen, something bad will happen. And if something bad, and you pile all these things on, and then you just start to shake in trauma. Now that comes from my mother. That comes from her never knowing when she's going to throw a fit. Waking up every morning, never knowing if she's going to be violent. She wasn't physically violent with me. She was verbally violent with me. And she'd throw knives at cats when she'd get mad at them and break picture frames. And she'd break dishes, and she'd throw stuff all the time and break it and fight with my dad just violently. And I would pick up everything she broke. And then sometimes she'd like get on his back and just, beat his back or throw something at his head. And He didn't hit back like the first half of my childhood I remember. And then later, I think he did. Then he did start breaking stuff. But I don't remember her ever hitting her. I remember another man slapping my mom once and my dad knocking him almost through a window. So he wasn't into violence against my mother, but she sure was violent against him. And so, but their fighting was so freaking intense, right? And stressed me out so much. And my aunt told me later in life that sometimes she'd come over and I'd just be like this, just down by the trailer house side, just waiting for it to be over. But when it was over, wow, right? The passion, the love, right? She's a Scorpio, he's a Taurus. They just loved each other so much, right? And dinner would be on the table every night at 5. She'd take his boots off every night, or I would. Their passion was so intense, and their sexuality together was just so intense, which you couldn't help but, that's neither here nor there. My mother's boundaries, she had a lot of inappropriate boundaries, which I flashed on last night too. But what's so cool is I flashed on it different. I flashed on it and me telling her, look, just because I'm a child doesn't mean I don't have the rights to, some mothers assume children don't have memories. Okay, they don't have rights to privacy. Like my mother would come in the bathroom and wash the bathtub in really inappropriate ways. Barely any room for me to go to the bathroom. She was inappropriate with me as her counselor. And it's like some mothers have no idea. They're so in their own trauma and depression and chaos and lust that they don't factor in that I might remember how she's treating me, that I have a memory of the sick shit that she did around me, and that's in my formative years, and that makes me. And then I have those tics and stresses and could never really have a peaceful life or peaceful relationship because my mother was constantly depressed, constantly wanting to die, and then very, very sexual and sexually graphic and very suicidal and chaotic, and while at the same time then guilt tripping me about don't have sex till you're 30, don't say the F word, don't, right? When fuck was every other word. And it doesn't matter. You tell your child something 1,000 times, it doesn't matter. They see it by what you show them. And if you just hole up in your room and cry and you just it's all about you. It's all about your lovers. It's all about your husband. It's all about that isn't your child's father necessarily. It's all about the new relationship and the new person. And you're just kind of ignoring your kids and you're depressed and your kids feel responsible to keep you alive and keep you okay. Then later in life, that's how you live. That's how you do relationships. You will be abused. You will be victimized. You will be under constant post-traumatic stress, and you'll never really find the love that you want because you think love's something it isn't because you watched your mother. And that's how it was with my mother. And so clearing that and clearing that and clearing that. And two, sometimes when I think, well, maybe I should talk to my mommy. I was always her mother, right? I'm the mother. Always have been the mother. Then I go, well, when these weird things happen, or like authority or things challenge you and you shake and you're scared or whatever, or if your mom messages you and says she loves you, my daughter, and you get scared, trust that inner child. Okay, your mother caused it. So why in the world would you be in contact with her again? Whatever it is that you can't see inside of you that's so traumatic was caused by how your mother treated you. And even if your mother did nothing, and other people did nothing, then that's your mother doing nothing. Right? Because what was she doing while the other people were doing this stuff to you? Okay, and I didn't have a dialogue with my mom. I couldn't talk to her about sexuality. I couldn't talk to her about any of that stuff because, like I said, everything was over-sexualized, jokes and fights and all the time. But I'm not allowed to be sexual like in my talk, and I'm not allowed to say the F word. I get big trouble. I'm not allowed to tell my dad to fuck off or flip him off at bowling, right? So they live that world, and then they want their children to live another world. And it creates really fucked up shit in kids, okay? So Spirit's been showing me that and working with me, going, this is just to go into it, to go ahead and be afraid. Be afraid of this authority coming at you again and just feel it and just feel it. And then Spirit showed me, this is the root wound. This is the root of where you go when you get freaked out, when people show up unannounced. When someone just, knocks on your bedroom door and you're not expecting them. When someone wants you, or like I said, there's a loud noise upstairs, or when someone does something in an order that I don't necessarily like, or I didn't plan ahead, it traumatizes me. Okay. When that, and I'm not saying right now, I'm saying this is over decades, and what happens when mothers do this to kids, what happens to the adult child, which I'm the example, and I'm talking to stuff over 30 years, and now that Spirit's showing me, all of a sudden saying, go ahead and fear, you're going to get in trouble. What's the worst that can happen? Go into it and feel it in the body, and then don't put the words on it. Let the trigger come up and feel the wound and just sit in it. Yeah, it may take days, it may take hours, but just feel it and then don't put a story to it. Yeah, you'll probably, bloat, once a stress and an emotion relaxes when you find it, I found that then you bloat. And so your body's processing that. And dry fasting really helps that because your body doesn't have to process other things. And so, it was really interesting. I'm like, okay, so Spirit was counseling me about going into this wound, asking me questions, and taking me back to different things in childhood. And I'm like, well, I don't necessarily want to restore it. It's like, well, we're going back to look at what people said to you and what was done, that your programs, that the program that kind of set this lifetime into motion, how you learn to deal with this through your ancestry line, and kind of showed me some of the things people said to me. And I'm like, well, I can't remember. Like, I can't remember this or that. Spirit's like, it doesn't matter. You remember, it doesn't matter. Feel it. I don't have to remember it. Just feel it. And then flashed me on a few things and like examples recently that trigger me. So Spirit showed me that about a year ago, I was walking around Fort Worden, and it was a really beautiful day, and I was hanging out by this beautiful tree. And the park ranger pulled up to this guy that was walking and just started screaming at him. And he was in big trouble. And the guy is like, and I'm listening to it, and because he fed a deer, and it's illegal to feed the deer in the park. And Spirit showed me that, and I laughed because the deer, compared to what the confrontation was with me, was so far apart in worlds, really, and in the legal system and the whole thing. But it's illegal to feed a deer, right? So like at Fort Worden, it's illegal to pick up a rock. It's illegal to feed the deer. It's illegal to do other things in the park that you see every day. Okay, maybe animals at large. There's a whole bunch of it. You see it every day. But then you got the park rangers that are like, they see one and they're like, hey, I mean, I've seen them on the North Beach side get really upset at people, picking up rocks. And then they just, and they got their bulletproof vest and they got their guns and they're, I mean, it's just sick, right? It's a fucking park. Anyway, but Spirit showed me that deer thing to kind of show me, well, you were afraid of that. So I was afraid. Watching the authority and his target, I was afraid. Nothing to do with it. I was in a big tree doing my own thing. I was, in the tree. I mean, because there's a whole bunch of circle of trees and I was standing in and I was just doing my thing when I saw it. But it made me afraid. And so when people yell at people, it brings fear up in me. And then you go, okay, well, look at the fear and just go in it and let it dissolve because you have a place inside of you that calls that out. And so then Spirit flashed me on the other day. I was parked at the library. So I'm parked. Actually, no, right. So I pull up and there's a car parked in front of me and I pull up. Okay. And then the person comes out and moves the car up a couple parking spots and I pull into the spot the person was in. This guy, so then the person got out of the car, it was a woman. She parked and there's some apartment buildings and stuff there. And then there was the guy. And immediately when I saw him, my stomach bloated and I got triggered and I got scared. And because I couldn't hear what they were saying, but their energy and interaction. And so this is what I felt was going on. I felt the guy's energy look back at me and say, basically, like I said, I didn't hear any of this, but basically say to his wife, you dumb bitch. Look at that. Someone else parked in it. You could have stayed in that parking spot. Why the fuck did you move, you fucking dumb bitch? Okay. Because his energy, and then he was kind of referring to me in the spot, and then I could see her energy, and then you could see their whole dynamic. And that reminded me of my parents, and my dad telling my mom how stupid she is. And this is a spider. I made the decision to put him outside, clearly. Or maybe he's crawling around on me. Anyway. So yes, my dad would berate my mom. But my mom would also be like, oh, you're so smart. You're so smart. You're so smart. And then later she learns the Bible inside and out. And I didn't debate with her the first 3 years that she did anything with the Bible because she wasn't too bright. I know this video is very raw. But because my mom's just not very smart. And she don't know what you need. So she studied it. And then a few years later, when she kind of got into it, I was like, oh, then I would debate with her. Turns out she wasn't dumb at all. She's brilliant, right? When it's something she wants to study and when there's not some asshole going, you're too dumb to learn that. You're too dumb to know that. Hey, where'd you get that idea? Was that at bowling or Tupperware with one of your friends? Because you could never think that up yourself. My dad was horrible to my mother. So it turns out she did have some smarts and she's quite a smart gal and learned all this stuff about the Bible and all these and got all this stuff memorized. And that's awesome. It's of no benefit to me. I mean, maybe I got some of her brains because my biological father says this too. He's like, well, you didn't get it from me. He's a psychic. He sees into other worlds, but he's a farm guy and he thinks he's dumb. He's like, because the same thing. And no offense, who's ever watching, whatever. But the way I watch him with his wife is he dumbs down around her too. So he shuts off his psychic ability. He asks her permission. Was it okay if I tell her this story? He's like almost a 70-year-old man asking his wife for permission to tell his first fucking daughter that's not hers about his psychic vision. I was like, whoa. So I was glad then that my stepfather raised me because I got some balls and some moxies and I used my brains. So both of my parents biologically are fucking brilliant seers, incredible. My mom's like a witch and a seer, but they don't admit it, and they both gave their power to other people. Imagine if they'd have stayed together. That's me. Anyway, so it was so cool because Spirit's showing me this stuff and getting me to understand that, okay, well, I was, at the couple that was the berating thing. Spirit showed me, you were afraid. I was afraid. I was afraid I was in trouble for parking in that spot. I was afraid for her. I was afraid because I was stupid, because I'd moved. I was her. And so in flashing me on some of these different things, past, present, whatever, even though all things happen at once, there's no past, there's no present, there's only this now moment and what you use to refer to it. I felt I was being shown that there's a whole level of things that make me afraid of authority, and that it's not really about authority coming at me. What's drawing out this wound is my absolute fear and terror of authority and suppressing people and abusing people. And it happens with everybody. Like sometimes if people are yelling at a dog, or at first, like the other day, I mean, because I'm getting layers and layers, I heard some people yelling and I thought it was a weird thing. And it was an exercise class. And so there's part of me that's even more sensitive because I think stuff's being pulled out. The trauma's being pulled out to where I don't shake and I don't, like I might have done in my 20s, my 30s. So the first thing, my spiritual advisor was telling me about Katie Byron's work about, first there's like 4 questions. I don't remember it all, but I remember the whole thing of going, well, is it happening right now? Okay. No. Okay. If it's not happening right now, then just relax. Okay. So then I just go into the wound in my body, which is painful and around my solar plexus and sometimes some tension back here. Because I know certain fears and stuff, like my neck, and even when the memories would come up, then that spot in the body'd go. So you just go into that spot of the body and relax. So that's kind of what I've been doing the last 24 hours, and I'll be doing more of, because I fixated on this situation. And I drummed up things in my mind, and I started changing my behavior and my truth, even though it's none of my business and it's not happening to me now, and it's not actually happening. The projection and the assumption of it happening at some point, which is assumptions what made it happen, is the whole issue, and it's the whole root wound. And so it said, but the wound is a like kind to all of the psychological abuse my mother put on me, and of me having fear of authority, fear of panic and fear of cops, cop car be behind me, and or if someone come up to me and said, did you steal the whatever, be like, yeah, I stole it, even if I didn't do any of it. So just that motherly guilt of like, I know you took them cookies. My mom put shit on me like that all the time. I mean, I'd sneak stuff. Like I hid, I had a hiding under the house of a cottage cheese plastic thing with grass, fresh mown grass, and salt, so I could use it as true, right? So I hide the weird little things, right? Mostly weird, right? My childhood, I hid salt. Like I'd have the little rabbit salt, mineral salt, so I could lick salt, because I was like, you're too much salt, too much salt. My whole life, it's like, I get that from every fucking, everybody says it, right? And it's funny, the people, they're just so shocked. You don't have high blood pressure, you don't have this shit. No, because you're stupid. Sorry. I've studied tons of stuff on salt, and salt actually helping you to absorb water, and how good salt is. And mainstream salt is chemicalized. Okay, you have to use sea salt. Okay, natural salt. The iodized salt isn't real. It's crap. And so that will cause all kinds of things. And so will all the other chemical man-made stuff. But now we're in New Earth, so that won't even cause it unless you believe it. But what does cause a ton of different body pains and stuff is emotions. And so being shown that a massive fear of authority is causing these intense emotions in me for a lifetime. And so it triggered that line, and Spirit was showing me, okay, this is happening everywhere. So there's no like, well, what do we do to release it? We don't release it. We just look at it. Okay. We just feel it. Don't overthink it. Don't, I was going to say, don't abuse it. Don't abuse it. Don't, try and figure it out. Just feel it. But Spirit just wanted me to know that these are all connected, and that I feel that fear when it's happening to other people, to animals. I feel that fear and discomfort, and like someone's in trouble, and someone's, oh my gosh, that person, for everyone and everybody, empathic, whatever. And that it's not real to sit and be afraid that something's going to happen that happened before, especially when what happened before was nothing and didn't actually really happen the way that your machinations and your trauma lines try to make it and work it up so they can attract more trauma on you so that you can have the life they want you to have, okay? So, it's hot. So that's what Spirit has been working with me right now. Of going into this obsession, and it hurts. Like right now, my solar plexus, I have this pain, like some sort of an organ going, oh my God. And yeah, the dry fasting does that because it's cleansing, right? People associate pain and different things with, well, I gotta eat, well, I gotta this, well, I gotta that. Well, no, your body's actually healing. And in order for your body to heal, you have to stop eating. Okay? And as far as stopping drinking and all that, you do your own research. I'm not a doctor, thank fucking God, because I'm an actual healer. Yeah, snap. You tell him, CC. You be like, yeah, I'm an actual doctor. Oh, no, I mean, I'm an actual healer. Okay, so, so that's it for now, I guess. The dry fast, let's see, what am I on now? 18 hours, I think. And probably just gonna go 20, just 20 stuff, I guess. And I guess I shared some stuff, so I guess I'm gonna do that more. There's just no fucking way I want my mother in my life. I'm 50, still dealing with the trauma that my mother put on me as a child, and not blaming my mother, not taking responsibility. I'm taking responsibility, but it's like when you build a computer with a certain operating system, you have to change the operating system. And when your soul, we come in to experience these things in this life, you chose to experience these, and you choose certain lessons, and so then you have a certain operating system, okay? So what they teach you before the age of 12 and the ancestry line and the traumas and the programs that come in through that and through your blood and also your environment, as I was raised by my stepfather, then you deal and heal with all of these family lines, and you take on all these family lines. And when you have a stepfather that raises you, I still was in charge of his family line. Okay, not being blood, but I helped him cross over. I had nothing to do with him his last however many years, because he's just a total fucking asshole. But I did go to his place of where he was married before my mother, and his kid there that wasn't his kid, and his ex-wife, and I ended up spending months in that town, and I went to places that he'd told me about as a kid, and where he'd almost wrecked his car and killed, where he's seen Bigfoot, and I helped an energy, and I did a bunch of work over months that cleared his family line, and cleared his history, and helped him to forgive and to let go, because then a year later he died. And then a few months after that, the ex-wife that had died. And so we agreed to do certain things to bring through different energies. And so basically we are all a program, right? Because we're a simulation. We came from the land of yellow sun, now we're in the land of white sun. Don't even get me started, right? Lots of stuff to talk about there. But I know that I can shift realities, and I know that thought creates worlds. So me knowing all this stuff my whole life, someone like me who knows it, who sees it, who's a psychic healer, why do I still have those traumas? Well, I have them because I chose them, and I'm creating a cure, and I'm working through them. So if that's my only job every day, is to not be stressed out, right? So no stress, no issues, and then you have it, right? This core gut stress. And so post-traumatic stress of other people's expectations all the time, which could be a landlord, could be a cop, could be the IRS, could be, politicians, and they all make up their world, and then they badger you to comply. Now, there's plants that heal cancer, there's plants that heal everything. They made them illegal, and then they badger you. So the whole structure of society is to keep you on post-traumatic stress. So the key is to be able to find relaxation. And sometimes you have to force it, because there's this constant seizing in my solar plexus that I often force to relax. And now when I force to relax it, my body jolts, because that's a healing reaction. And so, and I go out on the docks and I do, just body movement, and releasing those different things, and just let your body arch and let your body move. And so anyway, noise or no noise, we got to have the window down. All right. So I'm going to let you folks go now because the window's down. Anyway, it's a gorgeous day. I think there were some other things I was going to say, but I forgot. Anyway, you get the gist that I guess these videos are going to be a little bit more real and tell you some stuff about my childhood and some different things. My mother's not my friend, and I don't care if what she sees. Oh, what if your mother sees it? She abandoned me long ago. she pretty much abandoned me as a child because I was the mother. I parented her. So let's just leave it at that, because now my mind's wandering to parking in the shade. Bye-bye.